Good afternoon to you. 4:07 now. News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up this hour, Mike Chapman is the Loudoun County Sheriff. He'll talk about the recent arrest of an illegal MS-13 member for double homicide and all the other problems facing our country and that county in particular right now. Ryan Gerdusky will join us at 5 o'clock. He's really into the early vote data, the polling data, and so are we. So we'll have a good conversation with him. And E.J. Antoni talks to us about the state of the economy ahead of the election. An awful report today. E.J. will be with us at 5:30 to discuss. And you can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Today, I started the show by emphasizing the fact that the left is trying to advance this idea that Donald Trump wants Liz Cheney to be executed by firing squad. That's the hoax. That's the firing squad hoax today. And instead it was just President Trump talking about how she adores war and how she would never put herself in harm's way, but she's perfectly happy putting the men and women of our military in harm's way. And so of course the media has gone crazy today. They're like, oh, he's calling for a firing squad for Liz Cheney, which is not true at all. In fact, President Trump was asked about this a short while ago, and here he is offering further evidence that he was talking about. She's a war hawk, and she gets people killed who shouldn't be.
Oh, yeah, sure. She's a war hawk. She kills people. She wanted to, even in my administration, she was pushing that we go to war with everybody. And I said, if you ever gave her a rifle and let her do the fighting, if you ever do that, she wouldn't be doing too well, I will tell you right now. But she's a war hawk. She wants to go kill people unnecessarily. And if she had to do it herself and she had to face the consequences of battle, she wouldn't be doing it. So it's easy for her to talk, but she wouldn't be doing it. She's actually a disgrace. Well, she is campaigning. I mean, she's campaigning for us. Yeah.
Mr. Trump, I'm sorry, guys.
All right, so that's President Trump's remarks on Liz Cheney today, further emphasizing the point he made last night alongside Tucker Carlson on that stage in Arizona, which brings me to this piece of news. I saw Byron York share it, and now I'll share it with you. Local NBC affiliate in Arizona's headline, Arizona's top prosecutor is investigating Trump's comments about Cheney as a possible death threat. What a load of horse crap this is. You ready? Dateline Phoenix, Arizona's top prosecutor tells 12 News she's investigating whether Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump violated state law by making a, quote, death threat against former GOP Representative Liz Cheney during remarks Thursday night at an event in Glendale. Quote, I've already asked my criminal division chief to start looking at that statement, analyzing it for whether it qualifies as a death threat under Arizona's laws. Attorney General Mays, a first-term Democrat, said during Friday's taping of something called Sunday Square Off. Quote, I'm not prepared now to say whether it was or it wasn't, but it is not helpful as we prepare for our election, as we try to make sure that we keep the peace at our polling places and in our state. So here you have yet another Democrat prosecutor violating the obligations they have in the office that they have in order to achieve a political outcome by attacking President Trump for merely exercising his First Amendment rights and not in any way threatening anybody's life. It's so disgraceful the way these people behave, and yet so routine. She's not the first government Democrat prosecutor to pull a stunt like this week. Philadelphia DA Larry Krasner has been doing the same thing to Elon Musk this very week, trying to get Elon Musk off of the campaign trail entirely. How is that? He's accusing Elon Musk of conducting an illegal lottery and trying to force him into Philadelphia courtroom. That's what's going on right now, and that's because Elon is literally giving away his own money to people who sign his petition. And so this has been the left is trying anything by any means necessary right now, trying anything to disrupt the campaign, to meddle with the campaign as much as they can. in the end. Here's an NBC headline from this afternoon, just really from the top of the hour. Elon Musk's legal team delays possible ruling on $1 million giveaways with federal court filing. Dateline Philadelphia, Elon Musk's legal team filed court papers that delayed a potential ruling on a lawsuit over his super PAC's $1 million lottery-style giveaways. Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner filed a lawsuit over the contest Monday in state court. But late Wednesday, lawyers for Musk and his America PAC filed papers in federal court to move the matter there, arguing that federal law, not state law, was central to the case. John Summers, a lawyer representing Larry Krasner, this is a Soros-funded district attorney, I just want to remind you, described the development as, quote, cowardly as well as irresponsible. Oh, really? During a brief hearing in state court yesterday morning, Thursday. Matthew Haverstick, a lawyer representing Musk and the super PAC, defended the substantive merits of their actions. He said their notice of removal was properly filed. On Friday, after a flurry of new filings in federal court in Philadelphia, a federal judge sent the case back to state court, where Krasner was expected to seek a halt to the contest. So this is going back and forth, but they're trying to take Elon Musk off the campaign trail. They want to force him into a Philadelphia courtroom and to get him away from doing anything to help President Trump, because they're worried that he's going to succeed, in particular in Pennsylvania, where we've been getting indicators that President Trump is doing well. So all these people are using lawfare to try and stop their political opponent, and then accusing Donald Trump of being the kind of guy who would abuse his power to prosecute his political opponents. It's once again a case of projection, doing the thing that you accuse your opponent of doing. There's a lot of that going on right now. All right, let me get some people in here. I want to bring in Hugh in Germantown now, line 4. Hugh, good afternoon, sir. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Vince, good afternoon. Earlier on, you had a recording of some buffoon with a platform saying, how does this look, talking about this Trump hoax from overseas.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd answer that question on a purely anecdotal basis. My own family, I speak to most of my cousins, my sister, we're in UK once every 2 weeks. The breadth of what we have in the family, one of my cousins has been a dyed-in-the-wool union shop steward all his life. There's another branch who sold a business and live on the investments. There are those who are academics, and then there's the rest of us who live normal lives. In 2020, they were happy to see Trump gone because they believed all the crap the BBC and the mainstream media was telling them. Mm-hmm. Almost without exception, they all are desperate for Trump to win, except for those who are academics and are totally divorced from the real economy. You know, the shop steward, he's worried about the company. Those who own their investments, they're worried about the markets tanking. Those who work for other companies, they're worried about whether their companies are going to survive. And all of them are scared witless about the war in Ukraine. And none of them believe that war in Ukraine is anything other than a load of people in the European elite and the American elite making boatloads of money. So it's an amazing shift. The buffoon asks, how does that look from overseas? Well, I can tell you, based on a family that is focused in London and in the industrial north of England, it looks as though, dear God, can we please have him back? We may not like him. Yep. We may not like his tweets, but you know what? The world was a safer place, and Europe wasn't at war.
Measurably so. So let me, the buffoon you're referring to is, of course, Joe Scarborough. Here's what it sounded like this morning so people know.
Reaction to Donald Trump calling for Liz Cheney being shot in the face by 9 guns, 9 rifles in the closing weekend of the campaign. Not only what it says about where the Republican Party is in 2024, but also what it must look like to our allies in London, in Paris, in Madrid, in Warsaw, across the world.
Well, it looks completely insane.
So is it your opinion, Hugh, that people who live in the UK and France and Poland, that they desire more needless war and death?
That would be a definite no.
I thought
hard no. And I think what the American public doesn't understand is that since the end of the Cold War, there are an enormous number of European defense manufacturers, not least of which British Aerospace, which rely absolutely on the U.S. defense budget. British Aerospace is one highly visible company. Finmeccaria in Italy is another one. Rheinmetall in Germany. All of them rely on the U.S. military-industrial complex. So that would be great, except from the European perspective, the Europe is the battlefield. And my cousins are beginning to realize and have realized that this is not in Europe's interest at all, that this is being done. They're not really sure who the hell is interested it is in, but they know it's not their interest. And they realize finally that actually under Trump, the world was a much safer place, and Europe was much safer as well. So in response to Scarborough the buffoon, the world wants, and I say the world because I also have connections with the Middle East, and many of the Arab countries are quietly, desperately after, certainly in the Maghreb, North Africa, a Trump victory. But the media here will not tell you that. You actually have to pay attention to the media there. And then you find out that even their view is Trump was better. And same in Africa.
And it's not because any of these countries think that Trump is going to resolve all of their long-standing differences. That's not why. They believe that Trump is the candidate who will deliver peace, even if those differences persist.
Absolutely. He will deliver peace, but more importantly, when you come to Africa, you've got deeply conservative societies. One thing he will not push, and which offends Africans hugely, is the LGBTQ plus agenda. We are losing influence in Africa in the contest with the Chinese simply because we are pushing that LGBTQ plus thing. And that immediately turns off. And it doesn't matter whether it's Christian, animist, or Muslim parties and rulers. That turns everybody off in Africa.
Yeah, it turns out there's a downside to flying transgender pride flags outside of all of our embassies.
It's huge. And the Chinese demand nothing. So if I'm an African leader, am I going to accept the crap that the West is pushing? Or am I going to go to the Chinese, who demand nothing except my resources? Well, I'll go to the Chinese. At least they're going to build me a road.
Yeah.
And, to hear buffoons say, what does that look like from overseas? Well, from overseas, it looks like, Mr. Trump, please, can you get back in office, please, and stop this?
Yeah, I think normal people want that. Yeah,
absolutely.
Hugh, thank you. Hugh, I really appreciate that insight. It's excellent, and I really appreciate your call today. Thank you, sir. Yeah, a lot of hoaxes this week from the left. They create new hoaxes all the time, but this week it's rapid fire. Boom, 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 boom. Lie after lie about their political opponent. They said he was a Nazi. They say there was apostrophes in Joe Biden's statement. You see, actually, the Associated Press came out today and said that the White House stenographer's office is furious with the White House for changing the transcript. The White House Communications Office changed the transcript, the panicked White House comms office, in order to make it seem like Biden didn't call all Americans garbage this week. Isn't that great? Of course, this is what it actually sounded like when Biden said it.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
Well, according to a transcript that was prepared by the official White House stenographers, he said straight up, the only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. There was no apostrophe in there whatsoever. The transcript released by the White House press office, the Associated Press reported today, however, rendered the quote with an apostrophe, reading supporter apostrophe S rather than supporters, which aides said pointed to Biden criticizing Tony Hinchcliffe, the comedian, not the millions of Americans who are supporting Trump for president. However, the supervisor of the stenographers in an email called the press office's handling of the matter, quote, a breach of protocol and a spoliation of transcript integrity between the stenography and press offices. Quote, if there's a difference in interpretation, the press office may choose to withhold the transcript, but they can't edit it independently, the supervisor wrote. They added our stenography office transcript released to our distro, which includes the National Archives, is now different than the version edited and released to the public by the press office staff. In other words, it's fake, phony. So that's what's going on there. And we've got, and then of course there's the other hoax that's being advanced this week, one of many, that President Trump was saying that he's going to do things to women whether they like it or not. That's what the Kamala campaign is saying. That's what a lot of the media are saying. Here's CNN's Jake Tapper saying, actually, not so fast.
When Trump said he was going to do something for women, whether they like it or not, whether the women like it or not, he was talking about protecting women whether they like it or not. Certainly you can take issue with the language, but he wasn't saying he was just going to do whatever he wanted, regardless of, Anyway.
So the left hates this. They hate when somebody comes out and tells the truth. In fact, James Carville is complaining this week about what he calls the truth tellers, the loathsome creatures.
The people that I am most loathsome and the warmiest, slimiest people in this is what I call the truth teller caucus. The people out there that are just such burdened with the obligation to tell the truth.
The most loathsome people are the people who are burdened with the obligation to tell the truth. Yet another thing the left says that is the complete opposite of reality. Those are the best people, the ones who tell the truth. Coming up, I've got, a lot more for you. And Ryan Gerdusky's going to be here. We'll talk about the poll numbers. E.J. Antoni is here. We'll talk about the economic numbers. And, of course, we'll take your calls all ahead on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hey, good afternoon to you. It's 4:35 now. News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up on the program, Ryan Gerdusky will talk to us about the polling at 5 o'clock, and E.J. Antoni talks to us about the economy at 5:30. You can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. A couple was murdered in Sterling, Virginia on August 28th. Both victims, the man and the woman, were 22 years old. And this past week, the suspect was finally captured, arrested in that case, 18 years old. The Loudoun County Sheriff's Office taking him into custody and saying that he's in the U.S. illegally and he's an MS-13 gang member. For more on this, the Sheriff of Loudoun County, Mike Chapman, joins us now. Sir, good to have you back with us.
Hey, Vince, great to be with you.
If you could, just give us a basic summary of what happened in this saga.
Well, it was about 4 a.m. or so on the 28th of August. This young couple was walking in an area over there by Ridgetop Circle in the kind of Ashburn Sterling area, and got into a little bit of a conflict with this MS-13 gang member. There's some others there as well. It ended up where this particular individual, Marlene Medrano Ortiz, 18 years old, shot and killed both of these individuals, one of which has been charged. We're still working on the charges on the other one. There will be other charges forthcoming, but it's pretty horrific situation there. And as you mentioned earlier, this individual MS-13 gang member. So it's here illegally, of course. So it's a problem in that area for sure.
And did the suspect know the victims at all?
There's not an indication that they did at this point, but we're still looking into all the aspects of this. But I don't think that was a factor in this. I don't think there was any knowledge between the two of them. Okay.
And do you know about the immigration status, if any, of the victims? Were they also in the country illegally? Do you know?
No, they weren't. They're also from the Hispanic community, but they were here legally. So not a problem there. It was just this MS-13 gang member that is the big problem here.
Amazing. So you take him into custody, and you have him now. Thank God. How substantial would you say is the MS-13 problem in our area?
Well, it's a problem I'm quite concerned about. As you know, Vince, I'm a member of the National Sheriff's Association. I'm on their executive board, and I work with Major County Sheriffs of America. So we track all this stuff. So all these things that are happening on the border. We hear this often that every place is a border town now, but it's for real. I mean, we're having this kind of problem now. We haven't had any gang activity really in Loudoun County in over about 10 years or so, and now all of a sudden it's starting to pick back up again. it really does concern me. And this is just an example of that. We had another person that was here illegally just exactly a month before that tried to carjack a woman in front of the 7-Eleven. This nice woman in her 50s there, a grandmom, and who was in the county trying to check on her mom who was in assisted living, and got carjacked in front of the 7-Eleven in Sterling, run over and killed. And again, that person was here illegally. So no indication yet that that was a gang member, but he was still here illegally, and this is a concern.
Yes.
That's why we work very, very closely with ICE. We may be the only agency in the entire area that does that. And over the past couple of years, we've identified 478 folks that have come through our system here, our jail. ICE has come out and actually picked up about 250 of them and deported about 100 of them. So we work very closely with them. We want to make sure that we're working with everybody to stop this problem to the best of our ability. And obviously it's a problem that we're concerned about that's grown exponentially since not just here, but nationally, it's grown exponentially. Over this last administration, when you look at how open the borders are, and the fentanyl coming in, and all these other things that are impacting every community nationwide.
Sheriff Chapman, why is it that your office is one of the only ones in Northern Virginia that actually works with ICE? What's the story there?
Well, the story is that I'm elected and I answer to the citizens directly. We do have all of our constitutional officers are Republicans here, but the majority of our board are not. And because we answer directly to the citizens, we're not overly influenced by the Board of Supervisors. We do our job because we don't necessarily answer, certainly from a financial standpoint and working, in unison with them to some degree. But when it comes to the way that we conduct our field operations, our policies and procedures, we answer directly to the citizens we serve, and that's why I believe we're so effective, and that's why we're not afraid to do what's the right thing.
But you're not alone in having to answer to the voters. In Fairfax County, we have a sheriff called Stacy Kincaid who refuses to work with ICE, claiming that it would be somehow against the law for her to protect the citizens of Fairfax County in that way. If you don't want to talk about her specifically, what is that? Why would anybody not help make the community more safe when you have a law enforcement agency standing by to help do that?
Well, that's something you'd have to ask her. But what I can tell you is that we, from an enforcement standpoint, we're out there, we're doing our job, and we're going to arrest people, whoever commits crimes. And if they happen to be here illegally, we're going to follow through on that. We're going to make sure that, they get charged and that ICE knows about it. And if we can get them, we're going to get them deported. But that's what we do here, and it's disappointing to me when I look at some of the other locations around this area where they stand on this particular issue. It does concern me because our job is to provide safety. That's what we do. That's all that we do. And if we can't do that, or we're prevented from doing that because of other elected officials, because of their agendas, that's a mistake. And that's a mistake that we don't make here because I'm elected and report directly to the citizens that we serve in every aspect, not just running a jail or the courts, but all enforcement operations. So we have everything under one roof, and because we answer to the citizens, we can do what we know is the right thing.
Yeah. Give us your perspective on gang activity in Loudoun County. You said it was on the rise in recent years. To what do you attribute that? And are there gangs besides MS-13 that you're concerned about in the county?
Well, there's the 18th Street gang that also has been here, and we've had problems with them before, so it's a little competitive gang with them. And those are really the only two that we've seen here. We're doing our best to keep up with this, but I can tell you, 10 years ago, I think was about the last time that we had any gang-related homicides in the county, and since that time, and over the past few years, as you know, we've seen just a proliferation of fentanyl trafficking throughout the country, and we've certainly had our share here. We did an operation with the DEA a couple years back called Operation Angel's Envy, and we seized enough fentanyl to kill every man, woman, and child in Loudoun County 2 times over, and that was a few years ago. And so when you look at what's gone on for the past couple of years, the fentanyl coming in, the gang activity increasing, fact of the matter is that these policies and procedures that have been in place under this last administration have had just a real negative impact on on law enforcement, on the safety of our communities nationwide, and that includes a place as safe as Loudoun County. We're one of the safest counties in the nation, and we're still experiencing these kinds of issues.
On the fentanyl front, I saw some headlines over the weekend that student overdoses, WJLA reported actually yesterday, student overdoses have dropped dramatically in Northern Virginia specifically after a Youngkin's executive order. Can you talk about that? What's going on with fentanyl deaths?
So that's about a year ago exactly, and it was because of the action that we took here in Loudoun County to expose that with our press statement, and then it was picked up by Nick Minnock at WJLA that really exposed that issue throughout Virginia, and almost immediately the governor issued that executive order, which was just a wonderful thing to do, where you had to notify parents of students at a particular school if their kids had overdosed within 24 hours. So I think the pressure that order created throughout, not just Northern Virginia here, but throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia, has really had an impact on bringing these fentanyl overdoses down. A lot of it's awareness. A lot of it's us working with the schools themselves, and we're doing canine sweeps now. We're working with the schools and making sure that we're doing everything in our power collectively to bring this down through education, through training, through canine sweeps throughout the schools, through just a variety of things that we're doing that are really having an impact. And our overdoses, student overdoses, are down probably around 70% since last year, and I think other locations in the Northern Virginia area here maybe even a little bit more. So it's working, and that's a credit to the Governor Youngkin's order, but it's also a credit to agencies that are following through and getting out there and educating and holding people accountable and contacting their superintendents at their schools or schools administrators or teachers and everybody trying to work a little bit more closely together, which was something that wasn't going on before.
And Sheriff Chapman, these fentanyl overdoses, and sometimes we debate the terminology because it seems like many of the kids they don't think they're taking fentanyl. They usually think they're taking something else. So it's almost like they're actually being poisoned with fentanyl in an unsuspecting way. Is that the pattern here too?
Yeah, I would say that, and it is kind of we traditionally have called this overdoses, but you could call it poisoning as well, because it's what you're talking about is these Percocets that are not really Percocets, but they're manufactured to look exactly like a real pharmaceutical drug, and these kids might not know that. They might think they're taking a real pharmaceutical drug, and somebody passes it along to them in school or some other place, or sells it to them. It's just bad, and it is. It's unfortunately it's killing people. And the whole adage about one pill can kill, or it only takes one, is true. These people, these kids are losing their lives over this, and really I feel good that our numbers are coming down. Of course, we want them to get down to zero, but we're feeling pretty good that what we've done over the past year has had a fairly significant impact.
One of the worrisome features of the fentanyl crisis in the United States is in addition to the cartels having a huge hand in it, it seems like the Chinese government has just an overriding control over all of it, because all of the precursor chemicals are coming from China. They're coming into Chinese-controlled ports in South America. You have Chinese chemists who are working on building the fentanyl in South America, and then it comes into the United States, and the people who are moving it are using Chinese encrypted apps in order to move all of this into the country. It definitely seems like we're at war, and too many Americans don't realize that, we're dying in that war.
You're right on all fronts. That's where the precursor chemicals are coming from, and it's going to Sinaloa, and it's going to Jalisco cartels down there, in Mexico, and that's where the pill presses are. That's where it's being made. It's coming over the border. It's going throughout, across the southwest border. A lot of it coming in through California, and the case that I mentioned before, it was coming in through California all the way across to the East Coast and through into the Washington D.C. area, and it's just terrible. But yeah, certainly China's complicit with Mexico on this, and then certainly we're not helping at all with our open borders, which only makes it that much more dangerous for the citizens in the U.S. And so it makes it difficult on law enforcement, and I really feel for our border sheriffs because of all that they have to do down there with the scarce manpower that they have. We're, up here we're a little bit better off, and we're farther away from the real problem, but it's still a real problem for us as well. So we're all trying to work together and do the best we can under these circumstances. But yeah, it's a bad thing, and it's true. We all are border states now.
Sheriff Chapman, how important are Tuesday's elections to your mission in Loudoun County?
Very, very important. I can tell you this, and as I mentioned, the organizations I'm associated with on the sheriff's side, and certainly we work a lot with police organizations. But I can tell you, in the time that former President Trump was there, I would go down to the White House on a fairly regular basis. They would have meetings. I met with him personally on occasion to discuss certain aspects of what we do and what the sheriffs are doing out here. Haven't seen any kind of engagement like that when it comes to public safety and law enforcement over the past 4 years. I mean, it's been, crickets from the White House. And so I think it makes a big difference to have a president in there that really cares about public safety, cares about law enforcement. And to me, it's critical. It's critical for us and safety, in my opinion. And, certainly a lot of your listeners may disagree with me, but I think from my standpoint, it's critical that we have a president and an administration that believes in what we do, supports what we do, and wants to keep our citizens safe.
I don't think many of the listeners are going to disagree. I think they're going to vehemently agree with you. Sheriff Mike Chapman, I really appreciate you calling in and talking to us today about what's going on in Loudoun County. So important, and please keep up the good work. Thank you, sir. All right, let's take some calls. I've got Allison calling in from Harmony, North Carolina on line 1. Hello, Allison. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hello, sir. Always a privilege. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
May I first say Abigate-13 forever.
Amen.
The second thing I want to say is that I'm a poll greeter in Guilford County, North Carolina, and I was speaking with a homicide detective today who was talking about the fentanyl crisis, which has now morphed into the Chinese having developed something else that will not respond to Narcan. I just am stunned by and his astonishment that there's no way for our government to stop this, which broke my heart, and, has to ask us, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
How can we stop this?
Mm-hmm. Well,
I'm stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. Rightfully so. So China is at war with us, and I think a lot of people have been pretending like it's not the case. But if they control the entire supply chain all the way into your veins, into your body, they're killing a lot of Americans, nearly 100,000 a year in the United States of America, and we're supposed to do something about that. A sane country would do something about it, Allison, and that involves, of course, getting control of our border and taking it to China and stop giving China all of our money. I think those are 3 perfectly good options.
And that's a very difficult solution because I'm sitting here at a desk with crap that was built by China.
Yeah.
So how do we stop it? He was really blunt about his frustration with, there's no way to stop this.
Well, when President Trump was in office, he imposed tariffs on China, and businesses started actually changing the locations from which they sourced their products. So even if they didn't all come back to the United States, they would, for instance, they would go to Vietnam, or they would change to some other country as they began sourcing their products. And that worked. It had the makings of beginning to work. And President Trump is telling us that he wants to come back and he wants to impose that again. He wants to keep working on this effort and take it to China on fentanyl, and God willing, he does. There are options, but it doesn't involve keeping Biden and Harris in office.
Well, that's without question, sir. We're just kind of stuck with the Southeast Asian bloc that doesn't give a crap about American lives.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say that on public radio?
Yeah. Well, we need to make pharmaceuticals in the United States, not overseas. Yeah. No, you're 100% right, Allison. Thank you. Stay in the fight. And fight hard in North Carolina. That's a big state, too. All right. Coming up, Ryan Gerdusky will take us inside the poll numbers from all those swing states. And E.J. Antonio will take us inside the economic numbers just days to go before the election.